This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Adam Carolla.
Well, it's Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Best 15 minutes or so in the universe. This is your update for what's going on legally in the news as fast as we can bring it to you. Mark, where are you at?
I'm in New York. I am headed back. I'm hoping. I don't know what your travel schedule is. Are you Wisconsin this week or what?
No, I was in Wisconsin last week. LAX was a shit show and a zoo and a half. I was thinking about you the entire time. I drove into the Horseshoe. There was no parking at LAX. I drove out of the Horseshoe. I had to do something which I wish my kids would never have to do in their lifetime, which I had to ride in an airport shuttle. And take the shuttle in from the Wally parking place, and it was a complete clusterfuck, and I was thinking about you the entire time. But I know you have some hot breaking news in a video.
You've got to see. I saw this video, and I thought of you. I just have to get your reaction to it.
All right. It's looks like a police officer, police chief is doing a press conference. That's what it looks like.
Good morning. I'm Commander Ron Borza, Houston Police Department, Major Offenders Division. Last evening, I believe it was around 8 p.m., Westside Patrol got a call about a Bengal tiger in the front yard of a house at Ivywall Drive. I believe a Nextdoor app notice went out, and an off-duty deputy came to the house and confronted the owner of the tiger. There was a brief confrontation about the tiger being out in public, which is against city ordinance to have a tiger here in the city of Houston. The owner of the tiger took the tiger back in to the residence. When HPD showed up, the owner put the tiger in a white SUV and drove off from the scene. There was a brief pursuit, and the man got away with the tiger. We are actively looking for him today. He's out on bond for another incident that happened back in November in Fort Bend County, and we don't have any charges on him yet, any hard charges. We're working on that now for the evading, and once we get that, we'll be able to release his name, but I don't want to release any names until we get hard charges on the suspect.
What was he charged with back in Fort Bend?
Murder.
By the way. Wow.
Talk about burying the lead. It's bad enough that the guy got away by putting the Bengal tiger, it's a grown tiger, that was in his car. And apparently in the pursuit, they lose the man and the Bengal tiger. But at the first question by the reporter, by the searing investigative reporters, what was the other charge he's out on bond for? Oh, murder.
Well, I got to say, I was thinking about this whole time because I drove Phil in here today. And Phil's 110 pounds, and he walks around the back of the SUV. And if you stop short or you turn too quickly on a curve or you accelerate too hard, Phil is what we call unsprung weight. If you punch the brakes, he'll come flying into the front windshield. If you gas it, he'll go rolling into the back of the hatch. And if turn right, turn left, he's a giant mass of humanity that's just bouncing around the inside of this car. How could you get away from somebody with this giant cat rolling around inside the car? I just feel like, did they let him go? Did he evade them, or did they just let him go?
There's got to be more to this story. There's just no way that some guy is out on bond for murder to begin with, and then is being chased because he's got with his Bengal tiger in his car, and they can't find him. And by the way, he's not a suspect in anything yet, but he's out on bond with his Bengal tiger.
I can update you guys. This press conference was from Monday, and as of Tuesday, they have located the gentleman and arrested him for evading, and thus revoked his bond for the murder charge.
Yeah, well, I figured somebody was going to come to their senses at some point and say, wait a second here. If you're evading it with the Bengal tiger on some kind of a chase or evading a pullover, that might violate your bond for murder. I'm just taking wild guess here.
But do you think the people that were chasing so,
they
when
really wanted to catch him?
That's where my head went. Do you really want that Bengal tiger jumping out of the SUV?
Do you call animal control? Do you tell him to roll down the window so the tiger goes out? Do you say, step outside? Because if he steps outside, does the tiger follow behind?
Yeah, I got to believe that's a car you didn't want to catch. I that's the way I look at it. It's got to, although now in a flashback to my childhood, and now Gary's got more work, or Emmy does, on the internet, Exxon, I believe Exxon Gasoline and Fuel Company had a campaign involving a Bengal tiger, and they said put a tiger in your tank. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Isn't
the Exxon mascot a tiger?
Yes, and it's a Bengal tiger as well. And I don't know why, I just connected some tiger driving dots.
And is Houston, and I would assume Houston has got a large presence by Exxon there in Houston.
Yes, it's all coming together, but it all still means nothing.
I just want to know if the Bengal tiger plays anything into the murder charge against the owner.
Well, if they didn't find the body and you own a Bengal tiger, I think somebody's going to have to do a little
Put a tiger
DNA.
in your tank. There you go.
Put a tiger in your tank, and that's Exxon. It says Esso there, but I guess it's Exxon here.
I believe they've changed their name since this campaign.
Right. What else is going on in the legal world?
We talked about the Chauvin case, and it's interesting to me that the feds decided when they did to indict that, but it's kind of faded off. I haven't seen any more filings since then. I'm going to guess that the lawyers are trying to figure out, do we want to split off? Do we want to sever? Probably don't want to sever if I'm one of the three lawyers for the other three defendants. I probably would want to try this case in federal court right away, not waive time, and see what I could take my chances with blaming everything on Chauvin. In addition to that, the other case that I thought was kind of interesting since the last time you and I talked, have you been following Bill and Melinda Gates and the separation/divorce, the filing for divorce?
A little bit.
Okay. Interesting to me that immediately the story that comes out is that she started consulting with divorce lawyers back in 2019 because the reports are that she was so disturbed by Bill Gates's affiliation with Epstein. So that all stories come together here. Next thing we'll have somebody will be telling us that Harvey Weinstein was going to do a docuseries on them or something. But Epstein apparently so concerned her. And mind you, who do you think is putting that story out? I mean, you think that's coming from Bill Gates? Oh, we had trouble ever since I took pictures with Larry Summers and Epstein. I don't think so. I think that's probably coming from Melinda. And I'm wondering what the end game there is to kind of float these stories about, I was so disturbed about him and Jeffrey Epstein, because she's afraid that something's going to come out in the Maxwell trial, because she wants to, this is her way of kind of separating herself from him, because other reports were that they got into a large fight because he used to, a la Warren Buffett, write these letters, and she wanted to be one of the ones writing the letter for the foundation. I'd love your input.
All right. Well, I have two thoughts. One is a little preemptive disclaimer. Epstein was a powerful man who had a private jet, and many people were photographed on that private jet and used that private jet. But it's oftentimes the case where a pariah and someone we shun in our society owns a private jet, and that doesn't mean that everyone who flies on the private jet is either in alignment emotionally or legally or socially with the person who owns a private jet. Do you people understand me? So I just want to put that out there, because I think people are drawing some lines here, Mark.
They're connecting dots.
I'm saying sometimes you just catch a ride on a plane. It doesn't mean that you align politically, socially, spiritually, or that you condone any of the past, present, or future behavior of the owner of the private jet. I just think it's unfair to those passengers. Okay? I mean, I just want to get that off my chest. Okay. Now, how many fucking pictures are going to be of me, Mike August, on your jet? And when we find out you're flying it to your island and doing God knows what to whose daughter, everyone's going, oh, look who else was on board. All right. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying you can't draw a straight line between the people who fly on the jet and the behavior of the owner of the jet. That's all. I'm not trying to besmirch.
The only underage person who's ever been on my jet was in your company.
That's right, Sonny. Oh, so two thoughts. There's the political sort of social kind of part of this whole thing where maybe she's trying to distance herself from it. Also, here's a conspiracy theory: a wife cannot take the stand against the husband, right, in a situation like this. But what if you're divorced? I mean, what if Gates rolls deep and Ghislaine Maxwell or whoever she is starts opening up her little black book and a lot of people get implicated? The wife would not be She would not be compelled to take the stand against, but if you're divorced, then you could take the stand against. Yes?
I think I mentioned on the show before, one of my favorite cases that got reversed by the Court of Appeal was there was a judge, I think in Lancaster, who ruled that the marital privilege didn't apply because it was a lousy marriage, and the Court of Appeal reversed it. But I've been tickled by that initial holding. There are rules in federal court for both calling a spouse and a spouse testifying. So one of those hurdles, if they were divorced or separated, and they've obviously filed the divorce papers, the conspiracy theory, as always, you've got, your conspiracy theories sometimes have some legal cred.
What if, I'm just going out of the conspiracy, primrose path here, but what if Bill Gates was involved up to his neck with the Epstein, and what if the put upon wife knew a lot of the nuts and the bolts about it and harbored resentment against him and wanted to take him down? This would be the way to do it. I don't believe it, but it does legally give her the chance to take the stand if it ever gets to that point, right?
Well, very interesting theory. I'm gonna have to do a deep dive into the Maxwell case and see if there's any intersection that could possibly be helpful here. We haven't seen any pictures of Maxwell with Gates yet, have we?
I don't know, but
I've seen that one. The one I've got in my mind is the one with Epstein, Gates, and then Larry Summers, the former economist in the I think during the Obama years, maybe even the Clinton years, also was affiliated with Harvard. And I think that Epstein also had a Harvard affiliation as well. You often see him in a Harvard sweatshirt.
What do you think Ghislaine Maxwell's going to do? Do you think she's going to be a fountain of information? Do you think she's going to roll over and cop a plea? Like, what are the implications?
She's had, I think, a lot of time to work on a plea agreement. She never, I don't understand the failure to give her bail. If you want to start talking about sexist or sexism, she didn't flee. It wasn't like she was holed up in Costa Rica or something when they found her. I forget where she was, but it was in the Northeast.
Maine or something. She was like in a cabin somewhere far away.
Right, where she had bought a house under an LLC. Right. Anybody smart does that anyway. So I still don't understand why she's in custody. And sometimes it seems to me that the detaining people or keeping them in custody more often than not, is because that's a way to kind of extract a guilty plea out of somebody, because people would rather do anything to get out of custody. In her case, she's facing such dire consequences, and if convicted or if she pleads, that I can't imagine that she's got any solution for that other than to roll over and give information. And I suppose if you believe a lot of the conspiracy theories, she has a wealth of information that she could potentially roll on.
Do you think it's protective custody? I mean, do you think that after what happened to Epstein, that they think if she was on the outside that somebody could get to her?
It sure doesn't. Well, they could take that position. I don't think that they have in the bail paperwork, but because she's been complaining bitterly in the applications for bail about the conditions of her stay, if you will, at the hotel. In fact, a judge recently in that district has remarked that some of the conditions are horrific. And it's not the first time I've heard that. For the last couple of years, as I run in and out of New York, people who are detained just complain bitterly about the conditions at the MCC and also Brooklyn. I mean, it's a horrific situation. And she certainly could afford what many males have been afforded, which is, I'll go stay at a place of my own, and I'll have a security guard guarding me, and I'll have a electronic monitor and all of the accoutrements. And why not? What's the point of having her in protective custody when we saw with Epstein that didn't do much?
No, I know it's sort of oxymoronic, but it didn't help him, but it kind of suggested, depending on if you think he took his own life or somebody took his life, that somebody in high power positions, money, maybe multiple people, were going to declare a fatwa on these people. I mean, from the little I know about the case, it seems like there's a lot of people with a lot of money who do not want to have her spill her guts, although maybe she already has. I mean,
well, the interesting thing about this case, the reason I think it's fascinating to a lot of people is the intersection of so many fabulously wealthy, enormously successful and powerful men that are in kind of the inner circle, so to speak, or flying and doing other things. I mean, it does give a lot of fodder to those who like to connect the dots on conspiracies.
Well, where do you think Bill Gates fits into this?
If you believe him, it was for philanthropic motives. If you believe the spin that I'm completely speculating about, but that I suspect is coming out of the Melinda camp, it was something darker than that. But it just seems all too convenient that all of a sudden, the week after she files for divorce, that all of a sudden there are these stories about she was consulting lawyers 2 years before. Who'd be the one who's leaking that information?
Was he accused of flying on the plane, or was he accused of just doing fundraisers?
I've seen reports, and I haven't studied the flight logs, but I've seen reports from Teterboro to West Palm Beach, which is a frequent jaunt.
Yeah, one of the things I would ask is, again, speaking from personal experience, I should say, you definitely want to hitch a ride on someone else's plane. But Bill Gates, I'm guessing, has maybe several of his own planes.
I would guess that he has access to many. That's my guess.
Which kind of makes you curious about why, he was on that plane, or why he would need to catch a ride on that plane. And then it would also make you think what was discussed on the plane. But either way, it's interesting stuff to be determined. Is there any Giuliani updates or news before we call the wrap?
No, but by Thursday, I think we're going to have some news there on that front. So stay tuned. I'm hearing rumblings, but I don't want to say anything out of school. But by Thursday on Beyond, I should have something.
All right, Gary, where should people subscribe on YouTube?
Yeah, on YouTube, youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast if you want to watch the Beyond episodes, including this one and Thursdays. And we'll be back Saturday with a full Best Hour in the Universe as well.
So, until next time, Adam Crow from Mark Garriga saying, mahalo.
Thanks for listening to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes coming soon.